Hey guys, welcome tonight to another episode of Real Talk with Joe and Cody. How's it going, man?
Doing pretty good. You?
Good, good. Yeah, you were saying the end of the month, everyone's kind of racing to get things going, closed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I love about like middle of the month closings
Mm-hmm.
is you avoid the rush and
Mm-hmm.
a lot less going on. But yeah, end of the month it's good, but it can be a little hectic when half everybody's pipeline is closing at the end of the month, same day, same
I
time.
know.
So
I know. Well, it's interesting, like a little tidbit of info for people. And tell me if I'm right here. The
yes.
taxes obviously change as you if you closed on the 1st versus closing on the 30th versus closing on, 15th. That
Yeah.
changes a little bit.
Yep.
But as to your mortgage payment, so say someone closes on April 29th. When would their mortgage payment be due?
So it'd be June 1st.
Okay. If someone closes 2 days later on May
Yeah.
1st, when is their mortgage due?
So you can have it set up within the first 5 days of the month. You can choose to either pay the full month of prepaid interest for that month and have your mortgage payment pushed out
To
2
July.
months.
Okay.
Yep. Or you can choose to, I don't remember what the official term is on it. I should remember it, but you can choose within those first 5 days if you want to just keep it as it would have been at the end of the month and have your payment be the next month. So you're paying like 1 day of prepaid interest and then your payment is just that following month,
Just that
as
following
opposed
month.
to prepaying for the full month that you're closing in and then you skip the next month. So it does give some flexibility, but after you hit that 5-day mark. Mm-hmm.
You had, what do you suggest to people? For one, do you suggest they close early or late in the month? And two, what is your ideal world so realtors can hear this of when to put in an offer the closing date?
Yeah, good
Because I've
questions.
never asked this. I've always just made an offer, and now I'm feeling terrible that I didn't even think of the other side of things. You're like, hey, thanks, a-hole, for putting it right then. I have done stupid things like put it on July 4th or some sort of thing, like just not thinking,
sure.
But I have never taken into your consideration. So here we are. Tell me.
Hey, I love it. I love it. I mean,
like a little counseling session. How does this make you feel?
Ideally, and it just happens. Like a lot of times they just put it like 30 days out from when the offer's being written.
Yeah.
So it just depends. And
for sure,
if it's close enough, they'll try to squeak it in the end of the month, as opposed to like if you write the offer on the 5th, might not put it for the 5th of the next month. You might just do it at the end of the month. But end of the month is always a little busy because it just tends to be where, any offers that go in within like that week and a half period, they tend to just kind of get pushed to the end of the month. For my own personal preference, like if I was the buyer or just walking people through the differences, I like the closing at the beginning of the month, even though your prepaid interest for that month is going to be a little bit higher because you're paying for the interest for that full month.
Yeah.
If you break it down just as far as a dollars out of pocket cost, everything, you're only paying for the interest for that month. And so you're essentially like, it's not literal, but it's like you're skipping 2 months, right? So say if you closed on the 5th of the month and you were able to move in right away, you don't have a payment for that month. You don't have a payment for the next month because the interest is, it's going to be a little over half of what your actual payment is. So you're paying for a little bit more in your closing costs than you would be, but you're not making a full extra payment. So a little less out of pocket. Plus, it does make it a little bit easier for most lenders, I think, because you've passed the wave. And same thing with the title and escrow. They have the end of the month kind of bunch too. So it's usually kind of more open and free during that time because it's like the big wave has pushed and now it's kind of like prepping for whatever else is going on in the month. But every time we've closed, I've always chose to do it at the beginning of the month because that buys us that much more time.
What do buyers generally want to do, or do they even think about it?
They don't really think about it a whole lot. It's usually just kind of set up whatever they think they need to put in there to get their offer accepted. So sometimes it's a shorter close. If there's more time, then usually like if it's a 45-day close because things are moving around, that tends to land us in the middle of the month. But it seems like a lot of 30-day close, that timeline is more often than not seems to be closer towards the end of the month. So I mean, we'll obviously work around whatever the schedule is, but if it's like perfect world scenario, we got to choose it, I would just spread them out throughout.
If you
the
have
timeline.
if you have a weird loan or one that an underwriter is going to be picky on, do we just like try to slide it through at the end of the month, or do we like do we give them all the time at the beginning of the month to look at it?
Yes. I mean, that's the ideal situation.
Not that I would be that shady, but in the event that someone had something like
yes.
When's
If
the
you
best
know
time
that
to
there's
slip it under an underwriter? Like,
right. Yeah. If you knew that there's some issues, definitely. And that's where that, that timeline of closing and depending on what it is, like we were just talking about condos, that's one where it's like you try to, if you can, build in a few extra days just because the condo review and the condo certification, dealing with an HOA that sometimes isn't always very responsive.
For sure.
There's always those little things that end up coming up. And early on, you don't notice the time because you're like, oh, we got 3 weeks. We're good. We're plugging away. And then you get towards the end and you're going, oh man, if we could have only had a couple of those days back, it erases so much more of that stress.
And HOAs are notorious for, there's really good ones, but there's some that are be like, you think that you have 30 days and they won't get back to you for 3 weeks before they give you all the stuff that they need.
Yes.
Or the stuff that you need to make the mortgage. So,
well, and sometimes they don't even deal with what you're needing, but they don't tell you that for like a week and a half. They're like, okay, we're working on it. And then they finally come back and they say, oh, we don't actually do that. You're going to need to reach out to this company, a third-party company. Like, why didn't you tell me that in the beginning?
I know. And I think it's so frustrating as an agent with HOAs because you guys, I feel like, have a little leverage with your condo questionnaires and have to get this stuff for lending. Agents, like, I hate not being able to serve the client well. And it's like HOAs are notorious for being like, I'm not talking to you. Like they're just like, you're the agent for the buyer. I don't care. Or
you're very low.
You want these documents. It's $250 to get these documents that the seller could have already gotten for free. It's just, it's a difficult process. Like it is. Can be HOAs.
Yes, I know.
If the sellers are on the ball, the agents are on the ball with the sellers. It's like, it can go smoothly, but if it's not, it can go.
Yeah. Or like just a heads up on some things like special assessments, pending litigation, the kind of those big things that can make it a non-warrantable condo. Just even having the knowledge of that stuff, that it's actually going on, that's even really helpful just from our side, because we can go, okay, cool. We know at least that that's something that we need to look out for. And we're not all blindsided by it at the end. That we know, okay, cool. We need to get these documents. We need to really make sure that everything is squared away, because depending on what the special assessment is or pending litigation, that can make it a non-warrantable condo, which then means you can't do traditional financing on it.
And that's all that means, right? Like, and you can find other ways to finance, but like Fannie, Freddie are not gonna loan you on that.
Yep, they won't lend on it if it's non-warrantable. So then you have to go through a what we call a non-QM. So QM is qualified mortgage. So that's kind of like those like bank statement loans or ones where it's just not your traditional financing. And a lot of times those end up being 20% down, higher credit score requirements. So they have options for it. But if somebody was going into buying a place 5% down, and now the only way that they can get it is 20% down, that can be a deal breaker too. So,
and the rates are higher generally, right?
The rates are higher as well. Yeah. And reserves, like everything there's a much higher requirement for everything.
Because the risk
but they do give you those options.
The risk is higher.
Yeah. So it's nice going into it. If you know that stuff, then you can kind of go, okay, here's option number one. We're going to try to go the traditional route. If that doesn't work and you have the ability to, we know we have this as a fallback. And if you can't meet that fallback requirement, then just know that if it's not going to work this way, then there's a good chance you're not going to be able to get the house.
You're not going to be able to get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good thing for people that are looking at condos and looking at those sort of things. Every condo has this stuff, and it's just on your agent and on your lender once the offer is accepted, agent on the first place to see like anything they can get on the front end to be like, what's going on with this condo?
Yeah.
Because it could ruin a deal.
Yeah. Well, and like FHA, they have you can go on their website and look it up. So you can find out if you're somebody that's looking to buy a condo with an FHA loan, they actually have the approved list of what condos and associations are approved through FHA. So we know with those usually beforehand, but conventional, there's no way of knowing because they don't have any type of list or format or anything that says that this is warrantable or non-warrantable. And so it makes it a little more challenging, but
yeah, it's frustrating just hearing it. I know no one cares, but that's not
Yeah.
getting it. But it is like, it's very difficult when you're trying to get clients in and out of condos.
Yeah.
It's just a unique beast. To
Yeah.
figure all
Well,
this stuff
and we
out.
always seem to go through these waves. Usually it's when prices are high, or like right
Yeah.
now where it's just, that is a more budget friendly option.
Yeah. Yeah.
Condo prices are lower, and
Makes more
yeah,
sense.
you've got higher
Yeah.
HOAs, but it's like more people can get into those. So you go through these waves of condos being more of an option, and then you run into that. It seems less common that there's issues with condos than it is just like, oh, everything went through really smooth and
Yeah, I know.
everybody's happy.
I know. Well,
But
that's the thing. Like, speaking of affordability, what are rates? Like 6.8, it looks like, for a
yeah,
30-year.
yep, the
Down
national average. So
0.05%.
we're doing good. We've almost
0.05%.
caught back up to where we were at the beginning of
Nice.
beginning of April. So
Yeah. Yeah, we talked a little bit about the tariffs and the instability. And, honestly, I don't know. I feel like I should keep up with it more, but I don't keep up with it enough to keep up with what's going on with the economy. What have you heard?
Yeah. I mean, the reports that have been coming in this week, they've been pretty close to the expectations. So they haven't really had a big impact on rates. This week have continued to get better. Not a lot, but just like stair stepping down. Today's been really flat, that's always a good thing. Like, we're happy to see not a lot of volatility in the market. So
yeah,
it feels like we're kind of entering this weird, like, safe zone, which means that things are probably going to get crazy here in the next couple of days. But from the reports that have come out that usually tend to move the needle a little bit, they've been pretty close to in line, maybe a little higher, a little lower, but not enough to really change anything. So it's a nice little reprieve for a day.
Nice. Yeah. Well, we're coming in nicer weather too. So on a superficial level, it's like, it's nicer to show homes, nicer to see homes listed and things like that. So that's good.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Flowers are blooming.
Yeah.
Moss is growing.
Love it. Well, I won't take much more of your time. That was an interesting convo about the condos, and then I don't even remember what we talked about. My mind's been running.
Prepaid interest and when to close, when to not close.
Those are good. I think that's something that's so funny, because it is like, you just make an offer based on timing. Obviously, it's not like agents just do it to mess with lenders, but factoring that in, and even talking to buyers, I don't think many people talk to buyers about like, hey, do you want to close and on the 30th, and then you don't have to pay that, or do you want to close on the 1st? So interesting. I always just wanted, I think probably what you find is most buyers, maybe it's the lazy way out, or maybe it's the cheapest way out, but try to get it to where we don't have mortgage payments for as long as we can. So and
I think a lot of it too, it depends on the situation, because some you just don't really have the choice, because the sellers need to move out right away and close on the next house, and,
for sure,
and buyers got to get out and everything. But some, when it does come to a situation where it's like buyer and seller have flexibility, and you can move it to something that fits exactly what they're looking for, whether that means closing a little bit earlier or a couple days later, and it doesn't really impact anybody, then
it might be worth a look.
There can be that benefit.
Yeah. Well, I know you have work to do. You've got coming up on the end of the month, so get to it. Thank you for meeting with us.
Firefighter hat on.
Until next time, we are going to we'll talk about it next time.
I like it. Sounds good, man. Appreciate you.
See ya.